I'm making this video to tell you about a widget called the question log that I've developed. And the idea here is I'm trying to build my own miniature version of Stack Overflow that is just about questions that I've had in my own work and I've invested some time to find answers to. And you probably will immediately ask, why is it worthwhile to create your own version of Stack Overflow? That's obviously going to have less features, less data in there. It's going to be kind of hacky in a lot of ways. And the reason is that I constantly have situations where I have some problem I need to solve, look up the solution, spend maybe 15 minutes, half an hour searching on the web to find the solution, finally figure out how to do it. And then a year goes by and I have the same problem again. And then I have to repeat this process of going around, searching around, trying to find the Stack Overflow page, trying to get something that's compatible with my other tools. Often, one thing that happens is that I will do the search again a year after the original thing, and I'll find a page that's different or new, and so the new solution I come up with will be different from the old solution I had, which creates a little bit of inconsistency. So here's an example of this widget, and one thing I constantly have to remember how to do is Python cache. Okay, so there's a way of caching results for Python functions, and I use that often, but I often also forget how to do it. So here is the answer that I'm looking for: how to create a Python LRU cache. And it's basically just one line of code. It's got a link here that has an additional set of information about this func_tools package. So if I want to do other operations, I can follow this link. But usually I really just need to cut and paste that line of code. Of course, I can add in some additional notes here to, for example, maybe I don't always want to use max size equal 1. I should probably add a little note here explaining what that parameter does, but it basically isn't that big a deal. I also have a lot of, let's do SQLite. So the one thing in SQLite I can remember is formatting. Yeah, I always have to remember how to format strings. And sometimes I want to format strings in SQLite. And let's try to do an example of searching for this on Google. Like maybe that's the search. Okay, so I get this page, which is basically a lot of ads. That's probably the right answer, but I don't like this page because, I mean, that's probably the right answer, but it doesn't give me an example. SQLite format number with 2 decimal places always. Again, this is probably the right answer. Well, actually, is that the right answer? Right, so here's an answer that says you can use printf, which is cool. I would love to use printf in SQLite. But then it's like, oh, there's a gotcha. Only available with SQLite 3.8.3 or greater. So I prefer my answer, which tells me how to do it. It gives me just the thing I need to know, and no other sort of distracting stuff. And also, I can, of course, go and find the original page where I got the answer. So that is the idea of this widget. I can also, obviously, create new questions. When I go to this screen, this shows me the open questions and then the questions that are recently answered. And I can select a new one and say, how do I make $1 million and go in and try to find an answer. Million. Probably it's going to have some technical. All right, convert the two's common derivative. Fine. So I'll put that in. I'll put this URL in there. Work really hard. Save. All right. So then I have a answer to that, and I can click correct, and that goes in. And then if I want to take it out, I can search for that again, and I'll just say delete that. Okay, so that is basically a view of all the features there of this data set. I'll give you just a quick showcase of the backend. So this is the widget database. It's just got one table, question log. Right? So each question item has some text, a link, the full description, the full answer, an ID, a little bit of some dates about when it was created. And then if I do a query like this, I get all these results. And so these are just the questions. I'll show you a little bit about the code. I'm not going to, again, in these videos, just want to touch briefly about how the code works, what it does. It's one page, again, so about 500 lines of code for this functionality. And a lot of it is kind of boilerplate, like a create new is the same kind of create new operation that I do for all the other widgets, delete, mark or answer. These are all kind of the same. Then it's got a redisplay function. And actually, one thing that's a little bit different from between this widget and the other widgets is that it creates all of the HTML in the JavaScript. So there's no kind of supporting HTML in the page itself. If I scroll down here, the only HTML is this main page div. So whatever I want to dynamically display, I just put in that main page option. And yeah, it's again not very complicated. Let me just show you one little piece of the functionality that is implementing the search feature, right? So the key thing here is search. So I'm saying score question, and this is going to be a question log item. And all it does is search through the notes, the full notes, and the question text for the search terms and tally up a score. It gets a little bit of a score if the question has an answer. A little bit of a boost if the question has an answer. That way you don't see as many questions that don't have answers. And that results in the let's do something like Python format. Okay, so here the top ranking question is basically the question, basically the answer I want with this query. But then we also do see some responses that are from that only have the Python string in there. And I will say again that this isn't by any means an ideal search tool, right? It's a very, very naive search method. And probably in the future, I'll come back to this and try to upgrade it a little bit, make it smarter, make it more nuanced in terms of the results that it shows me. But for the time being, it basically has worked very well. I don't have any big complaints. If I did have a big complaint, I would have already fixed that. I think that, again, part of the rationale here is I'm searching a database that's much smaller than the Stack Overflow database, or certainly vastly smaller than the internet. So because of that, I'm much more likely to find the thing I want, right? I'm searching in a much, much, much smaller haystack, and that means it's going to be easier for me to find the needle that I want. And again, typically I know that the answer is in this system because I know I solved the stupid problem at one point 6 months or a year or 2 years ago. I just forgot what the answer was. Like I don't know. One thing that constantly annoys me is string formatting. Like each different language is a slightly different DSL for string formatting. And it's impossible to remember the exact way to do it. So I put the answer into this question database, and then I can search and find it again. Thanks for listening. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions or comments.